It's daily delivery debate time. Michael Rand here, Velle Neal III, Star Tribune columnist. Velle, it couldn't have been much of a much newsier week. So much so that I don't even have Vikings dialed up. We usually obviously have a Vikings topic. I don't even have a Vikings topic in our 3 debate subjects today.
That's amazing. Yeah, so much going on right now. You got basketball playoffs. You got postmortem Twins. You've got Gopher football not sucking as much we thought they were going to suck against Michigan. You got wild preseason chugging along. NBA preseason getting started. It's one of my favorite times of the year.
Me too. People say March Madness. October is the real month of madness. It would be even more wild right now, I suppose, if the Twins hadn't gone 12-27. If they were in the playoffs right now, adding to Lynx, 4-0 Vikings, Towns trade, we would be in full mayhem. But it's been busy enough as it is, and Twins are on my list today. But we're going to start. We are going to start with the Twins. We're going to start with the Twins today. Subject number 1: we heard from owner Joe Pohlad a few days ago. Right, I think it was Sunday, right as the season was ending, right as they were finishing this epic collapse, 12-27, basically saying, Falvey's going to be back. Rocco's going to be back. I don't think it was a payroll thing necessarily. It wasn't just an amount of money you can spend thing. It was a lot of different things, but he was kind of deflecting blame from himself. What do we think of the message from Joe Pohlad, and are they going far enough in searching for the blame here?
Not a good message. And as I pointed out on Twitter, which infuriated a couple people over Once Twin Way, was that I was wondering if this was a trait among the Pohlad family for sending out the wrong message at the wrong time. You never, ever, ever tell your fan base that you run your team like a business. Even if that's true, you don't come out and say it. And when he said it, I cringed. I said, "Oh, that's not going to go over well." and it has not, because fans want to see their owners run their team like it's a public asset, like it's a more of a community collaborative effort between fans and ownership, and then follow that up by making some moves and make the team better. But this all started a year ago at this time when they were eliminated by Houston in the postseason, and they came out within 2 weeks and said, "It looks like we're not going to be able to add much to the payroll. Or payroll is going to be flat going into next year." Next, the Valley Sports thing reared its ugly head, and the Twins ended up cutting payroll $35 million. So at least he came out and indicated that they weren't going to cut it any further in 2025, which I guess is a nice thing to say. But the damage was done when he said that he was making a business decision. That is just tough for a fan base to hear. And especially in that day, when they also announced that Derek Falvey was returning as baseball operations chief and Rocco was returning as manager, that just was icing on the cake for fans who just want to see some accountability in forms of restructuring after a season which they failed to make the postseason and really looked bad during the last 6 weeks while doing so.
I don't necessarily think that Derek Falvey or Rocco Baldelli should have lost their jobs after this year, but if you do look at the last 4 years, right, they've had to be pretty patient. Like 2021 was a major step back after you win the division in 2019, and then the COVID year of 2020 kind of kept that train rolling. They were under 500 that year. They kind of stumbled down the stretch. 2022, they were in it, but they fell apart in September, ended up like 14 games out after being tied for the division lead with a month to play. 2023, of course, yes, they win a crummy division. They play good baseball for about two months of that year. They were entirely frustrating for most of 2023. We kind of forget that because of how good they were down the stretch and how fun the postseason was. And then this year, of course, they start off well, or they don't start off well, but they eventually get to 70-53, and you all of a sudden tumble 12-27. You win 82 games. Like, this has not, by and large, been a successful last 4 years. So I think there was some body of evidence to work with there if you wanted to go a different direction higher up.
Fans want heads to roll. We have the ability to step back and see the big picture. Rocco's made the playoffs 3 times since he's been manager. Falvey's made the playoffs 4 times since he's been in baseball operations. Fabio has never come out and said, and his actions have never said anything about tearing down the roster or trying to rebuild. He's tried to be competitive every single year. He's had to do it with young people. He made a couple splashes here and there, keeping Buxton, signing Correa, re-signing Correa, trading for Pablo, extending Pablo. He's tried to make moves when it made sense for him and would be okayed by ownership. But he's never tried to take a step back with this team, which can't be forgotten here. And they're not that far off, but jumping back in this thing next year, there's a core of good talent here. They just weren't on the field. I don't know if if they're just hitting a bad run of cards at the blackjack table right now when it comes to injuries, or it's just a bad combination of players who just happen to be injury prone, or if there's something going on behind the scenes. It's hard to put a finger on it because we're not in these players' bodies and not knowing what they're going through. But there's stuff to work with here. I expect them to be in the conversation next year for the division title, and I'm confident in saying that without them making one transaction so far this offseason.
I think the Twins think they have a better hand than they do, if we may extend the metaphor. I think they're a good team, but they're going to have a lot of ifs every year. Maybe the experience that David Festa and Zebby Matthews got this year will prove valuable. Maybe Simeon Woods Richardson kind of becomes the Bailey Ober of next year, where he had to kind of have a good season, but had to get shut down. You kind of get tired, build himself up this offseason to where the point where he can pitch 160, 170 innings next year instead of wearing down after about 100. But there's a lot of ifs here. There's a lot of question marks. And I think that Joe Pohlad could have strengthened his position, could have had it both ways by saying, we're not making any changes right now, but these guys are on notice for next year. Basically, like, this can't happen again. And if it does, then there'll be bigger changes ahead.
Well, let's just say one thing here. If it was a fifth, we all be drunk right now. Okay. But ifs also allow for belief. I'm sure Detroit had a lot of ifs this year. I'm sure Kansas City had a lot of ifs this year, and they both made the playoffs, and the Twins didn't. Yes, I think, but I appreciate Joe Pohlad for not saying that these guys get one more year. He allowed me to say that in the paper on Monday. So I appreciate that assist from Joe, allowing me to point out that. And after snooping around, I was told that Rocco would probably be on the hot seat a little bit more than Falvey going into next year. So, there's going to be some stuff on the line here next year.
I agree. And there's the thing they've got to get figured out is whatever this weird disconnect was between the veterans, especially Carlos Correa, and some of the young guys at the end of the year. They got to patch that up this offseason and get everybody on the same page in 2025.
Yeah, I will tell you this too. Some of that's because Royce Lewis likes to talk, and he likes to say, he likes to be quoted.
He's great. Yeah, he's great for us.
Some people over there think that he gets out there a little bit over his skis with some of his comments. The pushback about playing second base, which actually I'm on his side on, because I thought it was unfair for the timing of that. But his response to Correa's argument that the young players don't know how to play, that was one that I think can rankle some feathers. And I also was told that there were some players who hit a wall in early September and didn't know how to push through it. And Royce was one of those players. So that's part of development as well. When you hit that late season wall physically and mentally, and how do you finish the season strong? So I think they would like Royce to be a little more calculated in some of his comments, but Royce is real, and we like real Royce. So it's good copy. So it kind of goes both ways.
Well, if Pohlad hasn't put them on notice, I certainly have. We'll see where we get in 2025.